Hello and welcome inside the bowels of Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis, Indiana, the site for Sweet 16 and Elite 8 action as the NCAA tournament presses on. Joining me here, Dominic Miranda of WTHR, Jason Bristol of our sister station in Houston, KHOU. Jason, it's your first time here, you told me. How's Indianapolis treating you so far ahead of this Sweet 16 matchup between Purdue and Houston?
Indianapolis is a very nice city. Everything is very close by, very walkable. We've seen a lot of race cars, and the weather's a little cooler than we're used to in Houston. But thus far, it's been a good trip, and this is a pretty nice facility. I can see why the NFL has the scouting combine here, and it's always one of the big picks for major events.
Yeah, one of the best host cities, at least we've been told. We like to sport that.
That's funny because Houston says that too, that it's one of the best host cities.
Every city has their own hosting experience, but we got quite the game coming up here. 1 seed Houston, 32-4. My goodness, Big 12 champs Purdue coming in 24-11, the 4 seed, and kind of different paths going on here. Quite the game with Gonzaga. I guess give us a little bit about this Houston Cougars team. A lot of excitement around this team, an extremely talented bunch.
This is a team that is led by the players. Kelvin Sampson will tell you that. Obviously, many around here are familiar with Kelvin Sampson.
That's right.
But Kelvin Sampson will tell you this is a players-led team, and he is also a guy that is so big on culture and creating this environment, a relentless mindset when it comes to defense, rebounding, and family. And when you look at the way U of H plays and how they play and what they do to other teams, there's one word to describe that, and it's suffocating. Gonzaga, after the game, yes, I know it was a close game, but after the game, Mark Few said, it's one thing to look at the Houston defense on film, it's another thing to study it, it's another thing to game plan for it, but until you actually experience it, there's nothing like it. And they just have this relentless mindset when it comes to rebounding and defense, and for that reason, Houston will always be in every single game they play. Shooting has been an issue in the past when it comes to the tournaments. Injuries have been an issue as well, but this year, this team, Juwan Roberts, the talented graduate forward, and his ankle notwithstanding, but they've been relatively healthy. And Juwan Roberts right now is moving like he always does. So when you look at Houston, experience, defense, rebounding, and this, I believe, is their most, how about this, best equipped team. They're always prepared, but I think this is their best equipped team to challenge for a national championship.
No question.
As for Purdue, what do we see from Purdue? Because I look at a point guard, a big forward who scores a lot of points, and then maybe a three-point shooter, but are they also, is the sum greater than the parts for Purdue?
Right. Well, looking at Purdue in their first 2 matchups, now remember, this team lost 6 of 9 coming into the NCAA tournament. They were not playing well.
They lost 4 in a row at one point, right? Now, granted, those were 3 against nationally ranked teams, and then the other one was Indiana, right?
Correct. So a rivalry game. You had Michigan State littered in there, I think Wisconsin as well. It was a tough stretch, no question about it, but their level of play dipped in the Big Ten tournament as well. They had a tough matchup against pretty below average USC team and then kind of got throttled by Michigan. Now, we've seen Michigan kind of have this magical run through the tournament, and they're clicking on all cylinders, the Big Ten champions. But with Purdue, what strikes me the most is the experience. You got Braden Smith, you got Fletcher Loyer, you got Trey Kaufman-Renn. Right there, that's kind of your core 3, that core trio, right? You got Caleb Furst, all Indiana guys, all guys with a ton of NCAA tournament experience. The big hole to fill coming in the season was Zach Edey, obviously. That's no exaggeration. It was a big hole to fill. That's a 7-footer in the middle there. Trey Kaufman-Renn has taken that baton. And Braden Smith, he's the Big Ten Player of the Year. If you haven't got a chance to watch him play, no, he doesn't jump off the screen at you. He's always in control of the game. He is the epitome of what a point guard should be. He makes this offense go, whether it's getting inside of Trey Kaufman-Renn, let him go to work, whether it's doing his patented pump fake or fadeaway mid-range shot or three-point jumper. Braden Smith is as advertised. He played 40 minutes in both games, in the first round and the second round of the NCAA tournament. Now, they played 2 double-digit seeds, and they've had a lot of trouble with that in the past. Not so much this time. An average margin of victory of 13 points. You're seeing this Purdue team kind of get back to their roots, and that was certainly a pleasant surprise. They dominated the painted area. Not something I think will be the case against the Houston team, but they dominated the painted area. They out-rebounded High Point by 20. They out-rebounded McNeese by almost 20. That is something you want to see if you're Purdue. That's what's led to them to success. Now, with Houston, I want to go back to you a little bit. Relentless is the word that comes to mind when we're talking about Houston, and in the past it has been defensive rebounding. Am I wrong to suggest that this is one of the more prolific offensive teams, though, that Houston's had?
Oh, without a doubt. When you look at how well this team shoots the three ball, L.J. Cryer, Milos Uzan, Emmanuel Sharp, those guys have been hitting it, I think, almost a 40% clip. And L.J. Cryer tied his career high against Gonzaga with 30 points, and he is a guy, he's a shooter and a knockdown shooter, and that's something Houston has had. Marcus Sasser in the past,
right? But
Marcus Sasser has had some injury issues. So when you look at that, that's why I say this Houston team is the best equipped one. Inside, Juwan Roberts, he's not particularly tall, but he has great moves inside. The footwork is pretty good. Your guy, Ren, he's got amazing footwork.
Yes, he does.
And so when I look at this inside-outside combination, that's why I think Houston is so good and so well equipped. Now, they do go through stretches where they need a bucket, and sometimes they can't get it.
I see.
But that's where the rebounding comes in.
Right.
Kelvin Sampson will always tell you it's not about that first shot. They think they're going to win the second, third, and fourth shots because of how well they rebound.
Yeah.
And that has really been the recipe. And also experience, much like your team, Houston, all these guys have been through it. And I see some parallels because I know Matt Painter was talking about how Purdue and how it's developing players.
Right.
And
yes.
that's very big on Houston as well. Houston does not have a lot of, let me rephrase that. Houston does not see a lot of guys leave via the portal. They brought in Milos Uzan last year from Oklahoma. L.J. Cryer is a transfer, but a lot of these guys, most of them have come up through the program, and you do not see a lot of guys leaving Houston to go elsewhere. Yeah. And that is very much about the culture and the type of kid that Kelvin Sampson recruits. They don't always want the five-star guys, or let me rephrase that. They don't always go after a five-star guy because they want somebody that's going to fit in the culture of what they. Now, they have had five-star guys. Jarris Walker, who's obviously with the Indiana Pacers.
Very familiar.
And next year's recruiting class, they've got 1 5-star and I think 2 4-stars. But to have that type of caliber, quality of player who wants to be coached hard.
Yes.
That's really unique, and not every player is interested in that, and that's why Houston doesn't always get those kinds of players, but when they do find them, they keep them here, and that is huge when it comes to the experience and building the culture.
Yeah, that's the way it is nowadays, right? If you're not getting your playing time, if something upsets you, you can transfer as many times as you want. And you're right with the parallels. I mean, all these guys, I think there was a graphic of where guys all in the Sweet 16 started their careers. Yeah. And you could immediately tell who Purdue was because it was all Purdue. That's not something you see much of anymore.
It's so rare to have a team that, I don't want to say recruits exclusively from one state, but it's amazing to me the number of players from Indiana on this roster.
Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that they keep them home is pretty impressive.
And the development, to your point, too. I mean, these aren't 5-star kids, right? No. I mean, Braden Smith from Indiana. Fletcher
What was he,
Braden Smith was a 3-star, maybe, and I don't know, don't quote me on that, but he was from Westfield. He was Mr. Basketball. He was a stud. But the transformation of him at Purdue to being Big Ten Player of the Year, one of the best, if not the best point guard in the country, that's supremely impressive and says a lot about Matt Painter. What do you see from afar? We're entrenched in it with Purdue here. When you look at this Purdue team or this Purdue program at large, what's the perspective?
Well, I don't know if Purdue has seen a defense like Houston's, and I think that that's going to be a big, big problem. I went back to what Mark Few had to say at Gonzaga, and Kelvin Sampson was singing the praises of Ryan Nembhard, their guard, and now you're facing Braden Smith. I just don't know if Purdue has truly seen a defense like this and the relentlessness of it. It was very interesting to see Houston at the end of the Gonzaga game let things slip a bit, and that was a bit troubling, but I think that was a good wake-up call, if you will. A number of the players have said, maybe that standard line of we weren't playing to win, we were trying not to lose, or something to that effect. But I do wonder if Braden Smith has seen anything like this. There's some length with some of these guys, and you've got a guy like Terrence Arsenault who comes off the bench. He's a guy with a long wingspan. Houston has, they play about 8 guys, but that first game, they didn't play a lot of minutes because they were blowing out SIUE. I also wonder if a lot with Braden Smith, it doesn't look, it appears as though his shooting numbers have dipped a little bit this year.
A little bit.
So I'm wondering if some of these accolades, in some ways, are more from his sophomore season than his junior season, because the numbers to me really don't jump out.
Yeah.
They actually look like they've taken a dip a little bit.
Right, he's been asked to shoulder more of the load offensively. I think
so
that's
might,
part of it, because
okay.
you know, everything ran through Zach Edey a year ago.
That's true.
And
That's a good point.
Everyone can work off him, right? And Trey Coppin-Wren, like I mentioned, has taken that baton. It's different, though. Zach Edey is having success in the NBA. He's a bona fide stud. There's no question about that. But with Braden Smith, it's funny. Everybody I talk to, just traveling with Purdue and everything, they say, you know, I'm excited to see Braden Smith in person because I don't quite get it. And then you watch him play and you're like, man, I kind of understand now. Everything goes through this guy, and he's just such a floor general. He understands what's going on. He understands this offense. Him and Matt Painter have a phenomenal relationship. But one thing I'll say about this Purdue team, and I think you're absolutely right, and maybe Big Ten fans are upset. They're like, whoa, we have a physical conference. We pride ourselves on being physical and defense and everything about that. But Houston's a different animal. And watching this team, and watching Purdue, and even in the national championship a year ago against UConn, what we found was that physical guard play really put these guys off kilter. Braden Smith struggled in that national championship game. Fletcher Lawyer struggled in the national championship game. Zach Edey had 40, but it wasn't enough. These UConn guards were way too athletic. And I see a lot of that in Houston. I mean, 32-4, that's no joke. Running through the Big 12. That's
undefeated on the road.
That's just ridiculous. And Kelvin Sampson deserves all the credit. I think he's just a few wins shy of 800 career wins. That guy knows what he's doing, and so does Matt Painter. But I do see a lot of challenges for Purdue waiting tomorrow. 10 p.m. tip. What do you think about that, by the way?
Well,
a late tip here on the East Coast. I'm not sure about that.
It is what it is. But it's interesting when you look at the point guard situation for your home team, Purdue, and the point guard situation for Houston. Houston came into this season, they were looking to fill the void. Jamal Shed left. Jamal Shed was arguably the most important player in the conference and one of the most important players in the country last year. He leaves, is now with the Toronto Raptors, and there was a transition period with Milos Uzan. U of H, Kelvin Sampson, they will tell you that we're very selective. So he obviously checked all the boxes, what they were looking for, but it was not an instant hit by any means. Most of the Houston losses have come early in the season. Now, granted, when you look at the opponents, that's okay. And Kelvin will always tell you that the team you have in November, and every coach will say this, team you have in November and December is not the one you have in January, February, and March. But Milos Uzan took some time to really fit in. And I would say for the past month, I would stack up him against any point guard in the country. He's been that good, that clutch, and he's asked to do so many different things, especially defensively. But really, the shooting is where we've seen it. He's been a clutch shooter, a knockdown shooter, and he has a little runner, which is a nice little change of pace. But Milos Uzan needed to find his fit with this team, and that has taken some time, but now that he has fit, it's worked beautifulally. And the players, again, going back to that this is a players-led program. Of course. Kelvin Sampson will say that I can only do so much, but really it was on his teammates, Milos Uzan's teammates. They were the ones to finally say, listen, for lack of a better phrase, we don't need you to be Jamal Shed. We don't need you to be another guy. We just need you to be you. And it's worked out. And Milos Uzan has been everything that Houston could ask for, and he's really been a difference maker. And if Houston continues to advance, he will be as important a piece as anyone. I also think Juwan Roberts, it should be very interesting, this matchup down low, how that works out. Houston is not particularly big, but what's rebounding? What is rebounding when it comes down to it?
It feels like physicality and want to.
Effort. Rebounding is effort.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. Houston, when Kelvin sees something not right, I don't want to say it has to go back to effort, but I think usually it has something to do with tenaciousness, effort, and that's why Houston's such a good rebounding team. They have this drill where they put a lid over the basket, and basically obviously the ball's not going in,
right.
and that's what they do in the preseason. It's a fight for the ball. Milos Uzan broke his nose early in the season.
I love that.
In the preseason because of that drill.
Right.
And that's how Houston prepares for the season. They'll break it out a little bit during the season, but because it's such a physical drill, it's basically a preseason type drill. But that just shows you what's important for Houston, how they operate, and what they do to get there.
Right.
What they do to get there.
Well, that's so interesting you bring up rebounding, because I honestly think that is the name of the game tomorrow night. I think there's no question about that.
And Purdue's been better rebounding of late, as you mentioned, and they had a bit of a lineup change. Is that what I've seen?
Well, they have...
Not a lineup change, but maybe they've finagled with some of the mix of the players.
Well, Caleb first starts for them, but he'll average, around 15, maybe 20 minutes. Camden Heide comes off the bench, and he's a rebounding machine. And he's led the way with them in rebounding, and that's kind of that effort, physicality that you mentioned, athleticism. He really features that coming off the bench. But rebounding, I'm so happy you mentioned it. I know we've talked about it a lot, but that is what the difference was in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament for Purdue. Now, they played 13 seed High Point. They played 12 seed McNeese, who seemingly couldn't miss against Clemson, couldn't buy a bucket against Purdue. So when they're dominating the painted area, of course they're going to flex their muscle, their talent's going to show, they're better overall team, and they're going to run away with it. They controlled both games. That is not going to be the case against Houston, and we've seen Purdue, when they aren't hitting shots, maybe are even in the rebounding battle, they are susceptible to giving up runs. We saw it against USC. Shots weren't falling. That was a way closer game than it needed to be in the Big Ten tournament. Against Michigan in the Big Ten tournament, Michigan went on a run, couldn't miss. Purdue couldn't buy a bucket. They were getting out-rebounded. I think they forced Michigan into a ton of turnovers, but it didn't mean anything when you're losing the rebounding battle and you're not hitting shots. It seems obvious to say when you're hitting shots, you're going to be in the game. But Purdue a little streaky when it comes to that shooting percentage, and if you're losing the battle down low, I just don't know if that's a good recipe here against top-seeded Houston, who hangs their hat on the effort, the rebounding, the second chance points, and being locked down defensively. Seems like an uphill battle for Purdue. I think it's a 9-point spread. I think that's incredibly accurate. I could totally see a 9-10-point game in Houston's favor. Can Purdue win? I think yes. Are the odds in their favor? I think maybe not. I think this team's just a little less talented than last year. Next year they're going to be great. They're only losing 1 player, and that's all fine and good. They're hitting their stride recently, but this is just a different animal. I just keep coming back to watching Houston in the Big 12 tournament, and man, did they impress me, especially offensively. Like we mentioned off the top, it's just not something that they've hung their hat on, but that defense and rebounding travels, and when you're as well coached as they are, feels like a good recipe.
And shame on me. Shame on me for sitting in this seat and not once mentioning the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, there's a lot to get to if that's being mentioned, 15 minutes in?
Joseph Tugler, or JoJo Tugler, he will likely, I would imagine, be on Kaufman-Renn.
Yeah.
This guy, lanky, incredible athleticism. Kelvin Sampson always talks about, he gets whistled for fouls, but sometimes it's an instance where the referee thinks he fouled him because how he reacts athletically doesn't seem possible.
Right.
He's a shot blocker. He has a motor. He's relentless. He has this mentality. The players will say, "Oh, he's a dog," and my guess is that's the matchup we'll see. And foul trouble could be an issue for Houston.
Okay.
They have
not a deep team, or you said 8 guys?
They go
maybe?
about 8 guys.
Okay.
They go about 8 guys. Javier Francis, he's a former starter at 6'8". He'll come off the bench. He'll be your first guy to help with that front line. But I would think that for Purdue to win, I think they need to get Houston in foul trouble.
Okay.
Especially the big guys.
That's interesting.
But Joseph Tugler is, when you see him, he'll put up maybe 8, 9, 10 points, but all the other things in the box score, I don't want to say Dennis Rodman type, but he has that impact on a game. He's that good. He's got that mentality, and he keeps getting better and better and better. So shame on me for not mentioning the Defensive Player of the Year, the Big 12 candidate for National Defensive Player of the Year 15, 16 minutes in. But I think that Houston, I think they're a double-digit winner in this game. Okay. I just look at what Houston can be, and the track record and the defense, and I just don't know if Purdue can handle that.
Yeah.
Obviously, being the Big Ten is something, But when I look at what Houston is, and if they can keep the score in the 50s and 60s, that was a big problem with Gonzaga.
Right.
That was a high-scoring game.
The pace.
The second half, the pace really quickened. But I think Houston's a double-digit winner.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned foul trouble. When Trey Kaufman-Renn gets in foul trouble, and Matt Painter had to do a little bit of a tap dance there in that second-round game, when to sub him in with 2 fouls, but the drop-off is evident when Will Berg comes in and Trey Kaufman-Renn is on the bench. They don't like sitting him. Like I mentioned, they don't like sitting Braden Smith either. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if the home court advantage, just 60 miles down the road of West Lafayette, plays a part. But Houston and Purdue, 10 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be all sorts of fun here from Lucas Oil Stadium. Jason Bristol, thank you so much for your time, sir. It's been all sorts of fun here, and we'll see what happens. Dominic Miranda for WTHR, Jason Bristol, KHOU. We'll see what happens. Purdue and Houston in the Sweet 16 here in Indianapolis.